Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody who is you can confirm that to us for people who have not. So I am Monica Mithun Shetty, Director at PMIPCC Hyderabad Chapter. And on behalf of the entire team, I'd like to welcome you all to the Masterclass session today. We had about 200 plus registrations for this session, and there's a mixed audience of members and non-members. Hence, let's start with a quick intro for those who are new. For this, I shall request our chapter vice president, Mr. Venkat, to please help us with a quick overview of this chapter. Venkat, over to you, please.
Thank you, Monica. Hope my audio and video is clear. Can you hear me? Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So, yeah, welcome. Very good morning, all of you. So, welcome all of you to the session. Now, a quick intro to the chapter. So, whoever new to the PMIPCC chapter. So, as most of you know, PMI is the world's leading organization for project and program management professionals. So, out of the 300 chapters PMI has, we are one of the 300 chapters. And out of the 10 chapters in India, so we are one of the fastest growing chapters. And we started back in this month. Now we recently celebrated our 19th birthday. We are actually initiated a 20th celebration started. We are currently in celebrations going on. And chapter is run by the volunteers. It's for the volunteers and driven for the volunteers. So we have 10 volunteer leaders running the chapter as well, and also many professionals supporting as volunteers. It's all volunteer, but no volunteers are in the chapter. So there's significant contribution we are doing in multiple areas. We organize network meetings, we organize conferences. During the toughest times during the COVID also, we started multiple initiatives. We started Air Enabler series to understand and provide some of the like how to prepare your resume, how to make a LinkedIn profile, and so on and so forth. And the same case, we are also conducting sessions and Masterclass and many sessions. I urge all of you to become members for the PMI and chapter Agile, PMIPCC chapter Agile. There's a lot of value addition you're going to see out of your members. Yeah, so that's at a very high level. So most of the board members are in the session today, and if any specific details you want to, so we will definitely answer it. Thanks a lot. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Venkat. Good things happen when you get involved with the PMI and the PMIPCC. We have a chapter. Thank you, attendees.
Yes.
Today. So let's get started. Most of you already know this time we have experimented with the format of our masterclass to move from a webinar style session to Q&A format. This is to help you by getting you more practical advice on managing difficult situations at work. And we've got a whole lot of questions from all of you during registrations, but of course, since it's a time session, we have been able to pick up only a few. But we've picked up the ones that have been that we've seen as coming in from different people, like multiple people asking similar questions, or some questions which we feel that people would be uncomfortable taking up at their respective work. So we've tried to cover those kind of questions during the session today. We'll also ask questions at the end of the session. So do let us know your questions on the chat, on the Q&A box, and we shall pick it up. Today, we have with us leaders. I'd like to welcome you, Pavani and Sairam. Pavani Tummala is Senior Vice President at DBS Bank. She has 25 years of experience across industries, technologies, and functions, working with people all across the globe. In addition to everything that she does, she's also the presiding officer at the Bosch Committee for DBS India office and a key driving force for citizen programs. Senior leader, PMIPCC board member and TA champion. He comes with the rich experience of over 20 years across industries around the globe. and he is an expert on everything Agile, as you would have already known. Pavani Sairam, it's a pleasure having you with us today. This QA session will be moderated by Babita, Vice President at Norton's Firm. She has over 20 years of experience in delivery leadership and is also an active volunteer at PMIPCC. Babita, over to you to take this forward.
Thank you, Monica. Welcome to all of you. So as Monica said, we are trying this for the first time, and let's see, we'll try and make it as interactive as possible and insightful for all of you. So before we start the Q&A, I just wanted to give a quick point that all the suggestions and the views that are given by our experts, they are based on their personal and professional experience. So there is no one-size-fits-all solution for any situation or problem, but I would urge all of you to look at this as a guide and as an approach and as a tip for you to take back to handle the different situations at work. So with that, we'll begin the session. So let's begin with Pavani. So I think Pavani, we have a very relevant topic of Purohit, and it all deals with the motivational factors in the current pandemic situation. A lot of them have asked us, how to motivate all the team members and inspire them in a virtual environment. And we'll be very eager to hear from you what you have to suggest.
Sure. Thank you, Babita. And a very warm welcome to all of you on Saturday morning, and it's very good to connect with you all. And I actually wanted to appreciate the person who has, or the people who has actually given this question to us, because that actually lets us know that you're actually thinking about motivating your team and really concerned about your team. So a big applause for this particular question, and especially in this kind of a situation. So let me share my experience and how I am currently motivating my team. In matter of months, actually, in past few months, the roles and responsibilities of how a project leader or the leaders have really changed. And we all actually are going through not an easy transition. We are actually facing something which actually is testing our leadership abilities as well. So something which helped me in motivating my team is, first of all, we shouldn't be acting as the business is normal. It's not. We have to accept it is not as a BAU before the pandemic. And the first thing that we have started is to have a daily stand-up meetings, and these meetings actually is more on a casual note to relate to the people, relate to the teams on a personal note to start with, and then focus on the work later. We actually ask the questions like, we have a common format in which the meeting goes is like, how are you feeling today and what are you going to do this week, and do you need any help? And we also encourage something like having the video on for each of the team member. And we have to create a feeling of that we are there for the team, and the entire team is there for each other. That's something which helped me in terms of actually motivating the team as well. So one other thing, connect to the team or connect to each and every team member every day, even if it is for a minute or two, just to check how the person is doing. And even in a remote, if not for the pandemic situation, even in the general remote working environment as well, make sure that you connect with your team on a daily basis and collect all the things which they are doing. Like, for example, it may be just an act of a kindness, or it may be an obstacles that they have faced and how they have overcome. Recognize those on every meeting, recognize their hard work. It is more important so right now to recognize the work that they do. First of all, you also have to stay organized, stay very calm and stable yourself, and never put your team in the dark. Like, be as open as possible, be as transparent as possible. Stay on the top of the communication, like what's happening with the company, what's happening to your particular LOB, what are the different communications, what are different things which are important for them to know, what are the different measures that company is taking, and what are the different measures you yourself are taking in terms of making everybody safe and making sure the virtual work is going well. Also, make sure the resources are available to the team. Like, for example, where should you go if there is a technical problem with your laptop? How do you get the accesses? Is everything working for the day? So make sure everything is being communicated to them, and make sure that they are comfortable and logging, right? Focus on mostly on deliverables rather than when a person is logging in or when a person is logging off. Focus on how the quality of the deliverables are coming in, rather than seeing if when the team are coming up or when they are offline and all that stuff, right? So that kind of a flexibility is really needed right now. Another thing, that on a case-to-case basis, when you talk to your team on a daily basis, make a reasonable adjustments. Like, does your coworker needs any counseling in terms of counseling, or does your team need any help from us? Does your team needs a different kind of working environment? In terms of time, I would say. So we have to be a little bit more flexible and empathetic in this current situation. Another thing that I would say is actually build a team who are actually basically a strong team, basically, who would resolve a particular task for you. So most of the team are actually also very forward to actually work and give us the suggestions. Like, also as a team, sometimes how do they wanted to motivate themselves as well? You would be surprised that they would be giving you a lot of insights into you. So always stay in touch with your team. Also, it's okay to actually invest on your crisis leadership training on it. I'm sure most of the companies have already done it and is doing currently. So it's good to train your team on how to deal with the crisis, and good to train your leaders on how do you do a crisis management. I would actually believe in something like even my WhatsApp status says is stronger together. We have to be unified. We have to be staying together and help each other. That's what is actually working for me. So yeah, Babita.
So, thanks so much, Pavani. I think that was very informative and useful. I'm sure it will really benefit a lot of our participants. Now shifting gears from the people side to more on the project and process. So I invite Sairam to answer this question. So Sairam, the question has come from Anand Durga regarding how do we manage agile projects in the current situation that we have. And also a lot of projects are moving towards agile. So how we can balance this. So over to you, Sairam, for taking up this question.
Thank you, Babita. Are you all able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Thank you, Pavani. That was a good start answer for a good question that came first. And thanks to all of you for joining us today. I know it's the first day of Navaratri and a Saturday, but it's good to see you all here. Can I see, like, one of the question itself mentioned, right? Most of the projects today are moving towards Agile. And in this current situation, right, I think Agile plays a much more and key important role in the way projects need to be run. because there are certain ceremonies in Agile, which are really useful, whether you sit together, whether you're co-located or whether you're distributed, right? These ceremonies really help you in trying to, touch base with one another and, get good updates on your project, as well as more importantly, know what are the risks and impediments and how to take care of it. So, some of the things that Pavani actually mentioned in her answer actually holds true here also, is to definitely have what we call the daily stand-up. You should have the 15-minute stand-up. Earlier, probably we were doing it co-located, but today you can do it with, so much of, virtual tools that are there. But make it a point that it's a ceremony that is going to be rigorously, diligently followed every day, and ensure to hold your Scrum Master definitely accountable, not just, responsible, but accountable for running the stand-up regularly. So that means that, the discipline of Agile is already set in, where every day you all are ready to, catch up with one another to understand, what are the blockades for you in your project, how do you want to actually take care of it, and follow these stand-up as prescribed in the Agile books. Normally, as a coach, right, sometimes I say, let's not follow what is always given in the book. We need to customize, the way we want to do things. But I would suggest sometimes that you actually need to actually follow, some ceremonies and something as what the book prescribes, which means have your stand-up, just ask those 3 questions: is what did you do yesterday? What do you want to do, today, and how are you trying to do today? And what are impediments and what are the risks you're foreseeing and how to take care of it? This one ceremony, believe me, if you're going to do diligently every day once you get into your, once you log in, that will really solve a lot of problems. The second thing about Agile is, being transparent and, completely, make everybody understand what you're doing. So you can always have information radiators that are created across. Even if you're sitting virtually, you can have Excel sheets or, Jira dashboards or anything that can always be, at one part of your laptop, where at any point of time you can get and easily understand how is the work progressing within your project. What are the risks and impediments that are slowing them down? So what we call, information radiator, please ensure to have information radiators across the board. So the first thing is to have the stand-up ceremony. The second thing is to continuously have these information radiators populated every day so that everybody can understand how, your work is progressing. So these information radiators can be either in the form of Kanban boards, which many of you are aware of, or you can just have it in simple Excel also. That's okay, but it's as long as it's an information that's being radiated across, please do have it. The third thing, which is also equally important, is, to touch base with one another. So let the stand-up definitely be one of your key, metric where every day you must have the 15-minute connect. However, ensure to always keep talking more and over-communicating. This is one of those times, like when Pavani mentioned, where we need to over-communicate. Please do not shy away from over-communicating. It could be your risks, the impediments, or it could be anything related to, you asking something that you do not know and you want to take it forward. So you need to also ensure that you're rigorously, always on, you have Teams, you have so many other messengers so that you can always keep chatting. Do not use only formal ceremonies as the touch points or the base points, but keep doing it regularly. The next thing is, again, because we're again in this situation, there are certain things of Agile. Please try to follow, I'm not saying follow the book to the T, but try to really have those things happen. The sprint planning rigorously on the day of the sprint start. Daily stand-up regularly must do. There's no negotiation here. You must have this daily stand-up. You need to have a sprint retrospective also, which is a mandate ceremony. So 2 ceremonies which I would say are mandate are the stand-up and retrospective. Sprint planning and reviews, anyway you're going to do it. The retrospective needs to be done very diligently. You need to really do an inspect and adapt both in the retrospective. Don't just use a retrospective meeting to just, vent out your frustrations or what did not go well, but rather use it where you can inspect and adapt. So you first inspect what went well, what did not go well, and what you want to do better for what did not go well. And then also have a, adaptation. How do you want to adapt? What are the adaptation mechanisms you want to use so that you can actually start better in your next sprints? So, that's also a mandate, and please try to be as far as possible on the video, but sometimes your video may not support you. For example, in the same case, what's happening right now, for the first 5 minutes, I was able to be myself on the video, but as I was talking, I noticed that the bandwidth was not supporting me. I came out of it. So, but at least show your face once, say hi to everybody, let them see what you want to say, how you're feeling, and then start, you can always come out of the video, but always keep talking and be in touch with one another. So I think the key answer here would be, Babita, is that, have the retrospective and stand up regularly, diligently, no negotiations on that. Ensure to be, having good information relatives across, and be in touch day in and day out through various tools, not just through mails.
Sure. Sairam, I think that was really well said, because Agile is being used without, understanding its real purpose, and thanks for bringing out all the right pointers of how to use an Agile, and especially in this situation. Thanks for that. So again, I think shifting the gears back to the people aspect of it, some questions came in from Ashok Kumar Sheshu. Again, it's for you, Pavani. Again, it's about this pandemic situation. We have questions that are relating to, how do we navigate through these situations without getting stressed, and how we can deal with the negative thoughts, that is quite likely in this situation. So over to you, Pavani.
Yeah, thanks, Babita. So first of all, in any situation, sometimes stress cannot be avoided. We have to see whether we can live with it, or we can see if we can reduce the amount of stress that we are facing. Also, it's very important to understand where is the stress coming from. Is it coming? Are you worried about something? Is it coming? Are you worried about your job? Are you worried about? Are you fearful of something? Are you facing any insecurity, or is something at your personal front which is bothering you really, really bad? So first of all, try to understand which area your stress is coming from, and from there you have to actually tackle each and every stress based on what you're feeling about. So we cannot assume and act, as I said, that everything is business as usual. It is not. It is very different challenge that we are facing. So stay as calm as possible and stay as composed as possible. Few things that really that comes out from stress is actually a mental relaxation and the physical relaxation. I would say from a mental relaxation perspective, reprogram yourself and do a lot of exercises which would make you really feel good. Personally, for me, listening to the music and going on a walk in the nature would actually help. And I am also a firm believer that the way how you respond towards any situation, not just the situation actually makes the type of person you are. Staying positive is one of the very key thing to actually manage the stress. How do you stay positive? First of all, I actually believe that if this particular situation doesn't matter to you after 5 years, it's not worth spending even 5 minutes on it. So and a lot of things we actually imagine, usually it's not as bad as it is. So try to stay as positive as possible, and then prepare for the situation. What worse can it happen, right? If you are prepared for that, your stress levels will come down. I understand when at a workplace you have to manage different things. You have to manage how your entire company is faring. You have to manage how your team is feeling. You have multiple things at the same time, but learn from the difficult situations as well. It is a great teacher for us right now. That and since after 4 or 5 months, I really never thought that together we could actually tackle the situation, and we are all actually back to as normal as possible. And we never thought that working from home with all the things, which is so many like internet and the availability and all that stuff, we thought that it would impact the productivity to a larger extent, but in reality it did not. So that's some of the tips that I could give. Also, focus on the things what you can control rather than what you cannot control. List down the things which you can control, which is there in your hand to fix it, and don't give much of an attention for the things which you cannot control. And build up your team, build up your community. It's very good to have a different team which actually think alike and which actually cares about and which actually gives importance to the work. And I also say that I wanted to close it with bottom line that it's okay not to be okay.
Wow, Pavani, I think that's very aptly put. It's okay not to be okay. And focus on what you can control. I think those are the key takeaways from this. Very useful tips indeed. So I think with this we'll move on to the next one. So Sairam, this one is for you. This is about people having two managers to deal with who have conflicting views or opposite views, or situations where people have to report to multiple people. I think that's some of the questions that have come in from Abhishek, Kavita, and Shailendra, where they want to know how to handle this, where we have to deal with two people with different views.
Okay. Thank you, Babita. That was definitely an interesting question, and I think a question that many of us, especially working in India, have, because we normally have a manager in India and sometimes a manager who's sitting either in US or Singapore or other countries. Sometimes, of course, both the managers are in those countries, so sometimes the managers are within India. But yes, especially for most of us working in the IT software world, we definitely have this reporting to two managers. Sometimes we call them as direct manager and matrix manager, dotted line, straight line, all these are terminologies we use. But ideally speaking, we are actually reporting to two people, and it's not easy to report to two people or have that sort of structure, because no two people think alike or many things, and we need to ensure that we are on the proper scale of measurement for both of them. So the first thing I would suggest is that first try to have an agreement amongst the three of you, because you are going to report to two managers. Nothing is going to stop you from having a good discussion with both of them. So before we even start working, right, it's good that you have what we call in certain terminologies, right, a negotiation or a contract. Those are big terminologies, but basically a simple work agreement that how do they want you to work with them. Some of them, one of them might want you to work in a particular fashion with respect to communication. The other person might expect something else. Somebody might want you to barge in and ask questions. Somebody would want a formal mail. So the first thing is, jot down, what is it that you want, how do you want to work? Then once you jotted down how you want to work, take those points, have a good discussion with both of them together, what we call, triage meetings or triad meetings, right? Have a meeting where all three of you actually sit together. You let both of them know that this is how you want to actually work and this is what it is. Do they have some challenges with it, or do they have a particular way of you wanting to work with them? Again, for the success of, for both of the success for all of you, see if you can have a good negotiation, how you want to get that. So first thing is to have that sort of a discussion. To have that sort of discussion, you need to be very transparent. You need to be empowered to talk fearlessly without any repercussions. You also need to be very clear to make them understand that you do not want to be taken for granted by both of them. Yes, because you're going to report to them. So for these, right, you should know how to ask your questions also. So, you can always Google, and there are 31 powerful questions. Coactive actually is one of the organizations that has come up with 31 powerful questions. Start practicing how you need to ask questions. It's also very important to ask good questions when you want to have good answers and good agreements. So, the first thing I would say is to first have a good discussion with both of them. For that, you first prepare yourself with what is it that you want to do, how you want to work with them. Then when you ask those questions in that meeting, learn to be fearless, learn to be, as transparent as possible. But to get good answers, you need to ask good, powerful questions. So you try to practice how to ask those questions so that you're able to get the right answer. Some answers need to be closed answers. They need to just be yes, no, do it like this, do it like that. they can't be, beating around the bush. So ask, closed questions so that you get closed answers. But for some questions, you want to prolong the discussion to understand the attitude and mindset of the person sitting in front of you. So ask open-ended, powerful questions. This will allow them to, open up more and talk to you. So when they open up and when they start talking to you, you will be able to also ask many more questions. You'll be able to understand more about them. They'll be able to understand more about you. So then you'll be able to get the right answers. Once you have come up with that agreement, try to day in and day out, try to see that you are going to follow what you all have agreed upon. So this will, at least set that expectation. Second thing is, it's very important to make all of them be transparent with one another. Many times, right, the ego comes not because you have not done something well. It's because you have not told them when you were doing it, or, they were the last person to know about it. So if you have two managers, please understand both managers need to be given the right communication at the right time, sometimes at the same time also. So even if they're sitting in different countries, right, you can always mail them at the same time. I mean, you can mail them. So it's up to them when they can see, when they cannot see, but at least you have tenure of it. Try to again use as much as possible, like I said in my earlier answer, to talk to them as much as possible using the tools, Messenger, Teams, WhatsApp, so many things. So you need to also ensure that, you're always keeping everything transparent with both of them. Nothing is being hidden, or there's no hidden agenda for you, or you're not trying to make one person feel that, is closer to you than the other person. That should not happen at all. Even if you have that, right, as human beings, you might be biased towards one person, but that should not be coming out professionally at all. So it's very important to do that. Especially if you're following Agile, you have many more mechanisms of being transparent, because when you are going to be in the stand-up meetings, or when you're going to be in the retrospective meetings, or when you're going to be in the sprint planning meetings or the review meetings, do not hesitate to call both the managers to be part of it. However, they don't partake in the discussions. They are going to play the role of a chicken. Like all of you know, right? Chickens are people who don't burn the backlog. That means who don't actually do the work. And, pigs are the people who actually burn the backlog. This is in Agile terminology. So no offense to anybody. So even if, all the pigs are actually in the meeting, or all the backlog burning people are in meetings, do not hesitate to call your, chickens also into the meeting. So they get to understand, what is happening. They also feel, happy that, you have got great trust in them, so that you are trying to get them, into these meetings also. And the last but not the least is, you need to ensure that you build the right trust between the three of you. That's very, very important. And to build trust, nothing works better than having an open discussion. Everything being as transparent as possible to both of them. It could be your areas of improvement. It could be your strengths. It could be something that you do not like. It could be something that you like. All these need to be, very openly discussed. So you need to be able to do that. In spite of doing all this, you still find that both the managers are not really, having a proper, flow of work with you, and you're still not being successful. Try to have a retrospective for just the three of you. What went well over the last few months for three of you? What did not go well? And how do you want to better what did not go well? And there are various ways of doing retrospectives. You can just Google, or if you have Agile people in organizations, you can ask. Retrospectives don't have to be made with, huge scrum teams. Even the three of you can have a retrospective to introspect how you can better things. Believe me, if you have this sort of discussions with them, right, it will always work out. In spite of doing all this for a couple of months, nothing has worked out. The last resort for anybody is to just escalate it to the HR and try to see how you can take care of it. I mean, that's the last thing. I mean, that's the last, solace. But try to first work out the first few things. I'm sure things will work out, because once you open up and start talking to one another, I think, everything can, be taken care of. The bridges can be easily, narrowed down, and you can start working together well. Thank you, Babita.
Sure, Sairam. I think for me also it was a personal learning. I'm definitely going to go to the Powerful Questions book because I myself struggle with some of these at times. So thanks for that. Again, I think continuing the people aspects of it, there are questions from the audience, with the participants, where they've asked about how to manage, upwards. How do we do upwards management in terms of getting your higher ups and your boss, or to get to understand you and to be able to see your work efforts, and especially in this situation, how do we handle this? I think this question came in from Ravi.
Right, great question again, Babita. What I understand is you wanted to understand how to manage upwards in this particular situation or in general as well. First of all, I would suggest have a candid discussion with the managers, with your immediate manager, I would say, to understand what are their priorities, what are their needs, what are they actually running as an initiative as a company, what is the goal or the vision for the company. Second, you also have to have a similar kind of a discussion with your step manager as well, which is like your boss, right? So have a same kind of a conversation to understand what is the expectation from the team that they are leading, and what are their top 3 priorities. Understand them very well, and try to align yourself to those goals. I already understand that you have your performance appraisals where you are given a key goals and maybe they are broken down into a small pieces and given to you. But to understand the end-to-end picture is all very important. Once you understand these, what is actually the higher ups or the top management is actually focusing on, work towards with your skills on some of these, and how do you align yourself and how do you contribute to these different goals and KPIs, and have a discussion with management and see how you can actually participate in producing some of those management reports or the executive meetings. You can also be there as a part in some of those as a non-speaking member as well, to understand how the things are taken and what kind of a critical issues that are being discussed in those meetings, and make sure that you try to contribute to those. Even if it is a small bit of a small one step-by-step small piece of information that you're contributing, make sure that it is highly visible by sending out through emails, and maybe sending out the mailers within your team, and also to the management that this is what is happening. And also try as much good connect with the top management as possible. That would help you to not only understand where they are coming from. Sometimes it is very difficult to deal with some of them when we don't understand why there is so much of a regression on some particular initiative, why there is not, and what is it actually impacting the company, as like in my case, how the bank is impacted, how the reputation of the bank is impacted if some of the things are not done at right timelines, and what is why there is so much of a stress or on some of those activities, right? So yeah, so that's how I would suggest the team to take it forward and be very transparent and be on the top of everything. I would say that it is very important that you also know your worth. It doesn't matter whether others know or not, but you have to be very cognizant of what your worth and what your values are, and I think you can work from there.
Thank you, Pavani. You put it beautifully. I think very, very insightful. Continuing on the same thread, Sairam, this is not upward management, but somewhat related. How do we manage difficult conversations virtually? I think this is very specific to virtual medium of conversations which are not so easy. So maybe you could share some of your thoughts on that.
Sure, Babita. So on a lighter note, right, I think sometimes having difficult discussions virtually is easier. So, you're not actually sitting in person, in the room, and, you don't have to really worry about, getting slapped or you slapping them or fighting and tearing each other's hair. And that was just on a lighter note. But yes, I do understand, right? Because of the virtual world, right? Sometimes, miscommunication, misinterpretations of, your ideas and thoughts, or sometimes, what they're trying to tell you, these do definitely, increase more. I fully agree with that. So one of the key things that you need to, ensure, which I think both me and Pavani were actually talking from the beginning, is first thing is, over communicate with, one another, especially if they are stakeholders, right? Could be your peers, stakeholders, even people reporting to you. Please do not hesitate in communicating more. It can go to extent of, oh God, every day I'm getting a mail or every day something being told, but they need to really understand that you need, at this virtual time, that you need to communicate a lot. Use that mechanism that really works well for you for over communicating, not necessarily always mails. Probably some people like WhatsApp to go through more. Some people might like, just picking the phone and talking to them, or some people might just like to have messengers and Teams and all that. Whatsoever it is, the first thing you need to do definitely is to over communicate with one another, so that you feel that, you're there together and working together in the same, place. That sort of feel comes. The second thing is, because it's again virtual now, and you really cannot talk over a cup of coffee or tea, right? So, you cannot, have that sort of luxury where you can really spend more time and talk to one another. Because once you start getting in front of a laptop and once you switch on a Teams or a WhatsApp or something like that, right, you always know that there's a time constraint, and you always feel, with this artificial constraints, you need to do something faster and all. So such times, try to follow the philosophy of, the root cause analysis that many people do, right? So first thing is, if you want to really talk about something, just try to get, what is the statement that you want to make, okay? And if it's a problem statement, what was the root cause for the problem statement to arise, and how is it that you are going to really try to solve that, root cause, so that you're able to amicably come up with a solution. If it is just, talking about your progress or your status, then just, you can try to be as crisp, but, as clear as possible, how you can actually, give your progress to, that person. If it is something that you want to, talk that is really bothering you or paining you about that particular individual, then, try to, use definitely those powerful questions to really ask such a way that, you're not intimidating that person. You're not trying to, bulldoze that person, but you're trying to convey what was really paining and bothering you so that he's able to give you the answer. For all this, right, if you're going to do it virtually, it would be great if the wavelength, the internet and wavelength supports you to please be on video. Nothing works better than, one person seeing the other person's face when he talks, and trying to understand, so that, there's more empathy, there's more sympathy if needed. If there's some appreciation that needs to be given, it's easier to give. So try to always be yourself on a video when you're talking to some person. If your house and other things are not giving you that sort of, flexibility, probably you need to think of ways of trying to come, on video. It is very, very important. I sometimes really wonder when people say, that, they do not want to come for video. I understand if it is for, long meetings, they don't want to come for videos. If they don't want to come on video when there are 10 people, I fully understand. But if you're trying to have a one-on-one with your manager or a peer or somebody else where you really need to communicate something and you need to get answers, I think you need to take time and you need to have the flexibility to come on video and talk to them. If you were supposed to be, say, sitting in the office, right, you would have been anyway talking to them, right? You wouldn't have been using, virtual tools, sitting in an office saying, I don't want to come to your room, so I'm going to call you or something like that. So try to think, that you're in the office, and this is an important discussion for you because you need to talk something to get some output or an outcome out of it. So you have to just get onto the video if possible, try to show your face at least for a few minutes, have the discussion, and then, come up, then you can always, move out of the video and have continuous discussion. So the key things that you need to keep in mind here is you need to over-communicate a lot. You need to prepare well for your virtual meetings because you don't have the luxury of, just having coffee and casually talking for a long time. So you don't want to waste your time or that person's time. So prepare yourself well for whatever you want to discuss. If it's a problem statement, then come up with what was the root cause and how you want to solve it, or how both of you want to solve it together. Come up with that. If it was just general discussion you want to have, even that, try to make it as crisp and, as value-based as possible so that, they're able to really get, good out of it. The other thing, last thing I'd want to hear is, always do a personal check-in. Like when you just get into a call like this, right? I mean, where just two of you are there, just try to ask him, how has the day been for you? How is your family? Just do that 1 or 2 seconds or, or 30 seconds of a personal check-in. Believe me, when you do personal check-ins, the whole way of, the discussion goes for a different, sort of, level. Because, that personal check-in is very, very important. Let's not shy away from the fact that, we are very professional. We don't want to ask anything personal. When I say personal, I'm not asking them to ask, what's their age or, what color, dress you're wearing today or what did you cook today and all that. Even what did you cook today can still happen. You can just casually ask about, what food you're having and all. But try to, how was your day today? How is your family? Is everything fine? Any support you want from me? Like that, those things you can ask first, and then you can get into a professional discussion. Thank you, Babita.
Yeah, very useful, Sairam. I totally agree with the point that you should have the personal check-ins. That's really good. So maybe we'll discuss one last question and then go over to audience questions. So this one, Pavani, is about how to handle bias, especially with respect to gender discrimination or conflicts and diversity management. So I thought this would be a good thing to.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Unconscious bias is something which a lot of companies are now focusing on and is been focusing before as well. So they have. I have seen the companies doing a lot of trainings across the teams. About the diversity trainings, about unconscious bias or negotiation skills or different leadership trainings, networking and all. To some extent, I see that it's really helping for some of the biases to be handled. But I've noticed that it doesn't completely go away. I guess the way that we are made, I guess our brains are wired in that way that complete bias is actually not really going away. So how do we deal with it? So I would say that we have to still constantly look in ways on how do we actually take case by case and understand how each case can be dealt with. There is a famous example where about an orchestra. There was a famous example that I could come across where in an orchestra, in a music band, there was only about 5% of women and the rest were men. And they did an experiment where next group of orchestra, when they are trying to select, they had a curtain in between, and the judges have only listened to the music and then selected. And the outcome is 40% of them are actually women and 60% of them are men. So what happened here? Even though those judges are trained with unconscious bias or the bias details and all, how could what changed here is changing the environment itself, not seeing the person who is playing the music actually changed. So I would say that we all have to look at how actually diversity is managed and how the bias is managed at each of our companies, and look at in a different way how we can tackle. For example, maybe we have to change the way how we do our performance appraisal. Maybe we have to change the way how do we do our hiring. Maybe we have to take examinations or maybe the code hackathons without looking at the gender of the person and then judge later. So even for the performance appraisals, right, when we do our self-evaluation, it could create to me actually, okay, this person is thinking, okay, he's a top performer. Maybe I would get biased on it. It's very good that a person is self-evaluating before a manager is evaluating. But I guess it would really help if we can break some of these barriers to help us more further other than training, I would say.
Sure. For the managers as well as team members who needs to get some acquaintances with how to manage diversity. So very insightful. So I think as we are nearing the close of the session, it will be good to get wrap-up comments from both of you, Pavani and Sairam. So maybe Pavani, since you're there, we'll start with you.
This is really my first interaction, and it's really very worth spend my morning, Saturday morning, and hope my experience has helped all of you to some extent. And you can reach out to me for anything else through my LinkedIn. And I think together we are stronger. So please hang in there.
Thank you, Pavani, with those lovely words. Sairam, some wrap-up comments from you as well.
Yeah, thank you, Babita. So yeah, for me, it's not been my first interaction because being on the PMIPCC board, I've interacted with most of, I think some of them even on this call many times, but it's always great to, talk to them. Like Pavani mentioned, if any point of time, any of you want anything and you feel that, our little experience can, help you all, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. And like she rightly said, hang in there because this is what we all saw the last few months is definitely none of us have ever imagined in our whole life that we'll be seeing it. But I think most of the organizations have sailed through. And at such times, if we are able to support one another, help one another, try to seek, knowledge from one another, not just criticize every small thing that's being told, not, have a lens and start looking at things, but try to really be open-minded, support one another, could be any methodology, any process, anything, but as long as you trust one another, respect one another, are there to support one another, seek knowledge and also give knowledge, I think, all of us can do wonders.
Wonderful statement from you, Sairam. Thanks for that. So with this, we will complete the Q&A session. We will take more questions from the audience if they are willing to stay back. So back to you, Monica.
Thank you, Babita. Thank you, Pavani. Thank you, Sairam. It was a fantastic session, a lot of insights, a lot of practical pointers, a lot of topics covered by both of you in the various questions that came in, dealing upward, dealing people management with seniors, people management with peers, teams, dealing with the virtual world that we are currently in, difficult situations, totally relevant in our current way of working, as they say. Thank you so much for taking out the time on a Saturday morning to spend time with us and share all your inputs, recommendations with our audience here. And thank you for willing to extend your time and stay back to take up a few more questions in the interest of the members and the audience on the call. Thank you so much on behalf of everybody from the PMIPCC Hyderabad chapter. Before we continue, I just wanted to take a few moments to take up announcements. The first thing that I wanted to share with everybody on the call is that given the recent scenario that we had with the Hyderabad rains, a lot of people getting affected, a lot of people struggling with basic things that are required for livelihood, for survival, and considering today's Navaratri and a lot of us believe that starting anything today is very, very auspicious, we wanted to make the announcement that we are putting together a task force at the PMIPCC Hyderabad chapter to help our communities build back. So this, we would want to raise a call to all who are interested to come together and help our communities. So this is a call for volunteers and donations only in kind, no monetary donations will be accepted. We're still working out details to form up the logistics and the planning around this initiative. So do reach out to us at the office at pmipcc.org email ID if you are interested to help our communities. Certainly together, all of us can make a big difference to our Hyderabad city. So please reach out to us and await further details over our email and social media handles to hear more about this initiative. Thank you. Apart from that, a few more event updates, just in case you haven't noticed it already. We have 2 events in October coming up, which are open to everybody. The first one is a paid session for the PMP workshop, which is starting next weekend. That is being hosted by the PMIPCC Hyderabad chapter. So if you're interested in reaching out to us on this, please reach out to the Academy email ID as listed on the screen. Certainly, within the end of this year, it's a good idea to get your PMP done before the exam pattern gets changed and the prices hike up. So do think about it, share the word with your colleagues and friends as well. The other event, which is planned in October, is on 28th of October, and that is a free knowledge sharing session which is open to all members and non-members related to the crystal gazing into the world of 4Ps. I'm sure a lot of you would be having a lot of ideas and thoughts around these topics. So do reach out to us, do register for these sessions, follow our social media handles for more information and emails. Few more upcoming events, but these are specifically for members. Tomorrow we have the new member orientation program. Tomorrow, that is Sunday morning at 11:30 a.m. You would have already received, when I say you, I mean the new members who are going to be part of the session would have already received an invite from our membership director, Suma. If not, please reach out to us again at office email ID so that we can get you involved. The other one is the annual general board meeting, and this is something that we request all our members to certainly join. This is our 19th annual general body meeting AGM for our entire chapter community. It's expected to happen on 31st of October, Saturday at 4:30 p.m. You would have received the email this morning with the registration information along with the agenda. Do register. We would be waiting to hear from you, and we would be waiting to share updates and details with you. A lot of details are waiting in that meeting for you. And the last event which I wanted to announce was the PMI Region 11 Common Ground Symposium, which is being held in November. And this is being hosted by entire Region 11, that is all the chapters across India, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. Registrations are currently open. Please check out, again, our email and social media handles. Everybody would have got the, all PMI members would have got the email with the details. If not, you can connect on to the link shared on the screen and check out details. Registrations are currently open for this as well. That's it for the events. One quick update is for the PDU information. One PDU for this session can be claimed under the leadership category. The self-claim steps shall be shared with you over email separately after the session. And thank you, Babita, for volunteering to do this moderation for us today. I think certainly without your help, we would not be able to take this up as smoothly as we have today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Monica.
Thank you. I think now, without much ado, I think let's jump back into the questions. I know we have reached 12 o'clock and we just wanted to wrap up so that in case anybody wants to leave, you can. But if you can't stay back, we would be still taking up a few more questions. There were a lot, like we said. So we want to utilize this opportunity with Pavani and Sairam being here with us. So do hold on to the call if you can, and we'll be continuing to take a few more questions. Back to you, Babita, to take it forward.
Okay, thank you so much, Monica. So I think I see a hand raised by Rudra Sen. So Rudra Sen, if you, so that your question, I can see hands raised. So please type in your questions. That will be helpful. So we'll continue with the questions, Monica. I think we are again going back to the team aspects of it, but now it's a role reversal. Now bosses and managers also have challenges with their teams. So Sairam, this question is for you, came from Shravan. So basically the issue that, typically managers and bosses face is that team members do not show accountability to their work even after repeated follow-ups. So how do managers handle, difficult teams? So I think it's an interesting question.
Yeah. Yeah, but it is interesting. And, at the end of the day, even managers are human beings, and managers also have managers, and those managers again have managers. So it's always, a cyclic thing. Yes. So it's again, like, I think most of the things that, I think I told in one or two of the earlier questions, right, to also, find place here, which is, to first build the right trust with that particular person. So as a manager, he needs to build the right trust with his, teams, so that he's able to very openly, ask the team member, why is it that in spite of this many reminders, you're not able to take accountability of what you're doing? The first step always would be to just, forget mails and forget messengers and Teams, but, pick the call if you're still in virtual world and just, tell Mr. X, it's been, 4 or 5 times that I have reminded you, but there seems to be no accountability from your side. What is it that's, bothering you? How to. So when that manager is going to ask, a question, right, let it not be as a command and control question, or let it not be like, I'm here to, penalize you because I am one step ahead of you in your career. Okay, that's not the way it should be. It should be actually more with, empathy. It should be with the sort of a reasoning is, why is it that, you are not able to do it? Is there something that I can help you with? So let it be more as, open-ended questions. Here, open-ended questions in the beginning will really make a lot of difference. So let him ask, why is it that you're not able to do it? Are you facing some challenges? Do you want me to help you with those challenges? Is everything fine? So let it start off with that sort of thing, and then try to get into the root cause of why he has not been able to do it and solve it. That's a simple mechanism, right? You can ask the 5 whys. Why are you not able to do it? Then it gives you an answer. Why? So for every answer, you again ask an I. So once you ask 5 times the question why, then the 5th time the answer you get always becomes the root cause of that particular problem. Then both of you sit together with the 5th answer that you got and try to see how you can actually solve it. It's very simple. This is a very simple way of actually trying to understand and try to make him do it. This should be really done by, by really meeting him or talking to him, not through mails and all that. Please do not keep, too many mail interactions and too many chats, all right? Those things do not really actually help that person really, get, more, feel that he's accountable for doing something and he has not done it. Those things won't make it really, spoil it more. So I think you have to have that face-to-face interaction or, one-on-one meetings where we are able to actually take care of it. The second thing is, right, the gentle reminders, you can also, you call, a simple terminology is what we call gentle reminders. Sometimes there's no harm in, you as a manager, I'm not saying you have to go down or something, there's no harm in reminding him once or twice. And if that's his regular practice, then you can always think that every time, you can take a data for the last 1 month for every task given to you, Mr. X, I had to remind you 2-3 times. I have no issues with reminding, but I have so many other things to do. So why is it that, I have to remind you and you have to take care of it? So always go with data points to, whenever you're going to the person to ask him about these things. Second thing, you always have these things more as meetings rather than, in mails and things like that. And also try to keep giving constant feedback. Don't make it a surprise that only, when you have to start, when it has happened the nth time that you're going to him. No. Try to, give him constant feedback, regular feedback. So try to have regular one-on-ones, what various organizations call, pulse conversations or, other things. Try to have those things happen so that, you're able to, regularly understand what is going with him to take it forward. So I think the key things here is, first have face-to-face discussions when such things happen. Try to ensure that, you are going to have open-ended questions, build a sort of trust and respect for him to open up so that then you can come up with a root cause analysis and find the solution for that. The root cause analysis used the 5 whys, which will be very easy for you to then come up with that. And then also ensure that you are always giving constant feedback. It's not that, only when he makes a mistake, you get into this. Try to give constant, even if you missed something, you say, okay, I think last week you held up, you didn't finish it, can you take care of it this time? So have that sort of discussion. Again, nth time I would say, over-communicate with that person a lot. Make him feel that, you're there always to support him and take him to the next level.
This is so I'll move this question to Pavani. This is a very different kind of a question, Pavani. So we have a question from Sudarshan who says that how do we kind of support, if we don't get any support, how do we manage the situation? So it's more about how do we self-sustain without any kind of, support system. I think that's a question, it's a very, different kind of a question, but very interesting one.
How do we sustain when there is no support at work? Is that what I could...
Yeah, how to manage the situation when we don't get support from higher management.
Okay, all right. What I would suggest is, one thing that you always have to do is to have your network very strong. Your manager has many other managers, peers to him. there are many other LOBs and many other units that where you're working on, right? Have that connect with a different boss, have that contribution to a different team as well. The work that you do, you actually can contribute to the other teams as well. Build in a network with the other teams as well, apart from the team that you are working. I would always suggest to have a mentor in your life, whether it's a professional or personal. Always having a mentor in whether it's in the current company or from a previous company, to have work with them on a regular basis. In many of the companies, we actually have this mentorship program already there in place, and try to get to connect with that one mentor at least, to see how the work is going on in the company in the different areas as well. Get support from different areas within this company. There are many situations where we may not be able to get a direct connect. We also can reach out to our business partner HR, not the hiring HR, business partner HR, who would suggest us to actually have a pointers on how to go about it as well. Personally for me, having a mentor and discussing with the mentor about my goals and my aspirations actually helped me a lot. And in a way, when like for example, I used to have a couple of mentors who is peer to my boss and also above my boss as well. So how did it help me actually is, whenever there is some kind of a discussion happen, all the work which my direct manager or when my direct team couldn't see, some of them were actually told by the other manager in the regular executive meetings, and also that it kind of helped me not only building up the network, but and also this is something which you can do by yourself. But again, don't really ignore why there is no support from your direct management as well, right? Try to again have a discussion with them to see why there is no support. What is actually are we actually going tangentially than what our team and the boss is actually working on? We have to cross check, is there something that I'm not doing right as well, that my manager or my team is not supporting whatever I'm saying. That is also some kind of a check we have to do. And if it doesn't actually really work at all, I would suggest you have to actually have a strategy in place to move out of that team, look somewhere within the team, within the company as well.
I think you gave a very good pointer as mentors. I think most organizations have this mentor framework, and I think everyone should utilize that, for them to sustain and go beyond their support systems. So thanks, Pavani. I think that was really very, very useful. I think moving on to now switching gears to the clients. A lot of members have asked about the clients, the processes they follow, the kind of scope creeps they introduce. Give some input on these difficult clients.
Sure, definitely. First of all, I understand that there would be a contract. Always there would be a contract between a client and us on what we are supposed to do and what we are promised to do. Actually, many of them do forget that there is a contract, and they may not go as per contract sometimes, just because our relationship with the client is very long, and we also accommodate some of these things. But then it is actually hitting us in terms of our resources, hitting us how we are managing our work, day-to-day work also, right? So scope creep is something which is really which used to be a problem before, but I feel that nowadays it is not anymore. The reason being, everything is moved towards agile. So in an agile environment, we actually involve everybody which includes the client representative as well, which we call as a product owner, or different business owners and different names that we could give as a part of it. So including one of the client team to be part of our Agile Scrums actually is helping out nowadays, and they understand how difficult a task is. For them, maybe automating something is like maybe a piece of cake, but when we actually do it, when we actually present to them, and when we actually show the time it takes for a particular task is different than what they actually imagine, it usually helps. There is always a push from the customer or the client where we wanted to do a certain things on a certain point of time. But we also have to go back to them assertively, saying that if we do this particular feature, we would be breaking our Scrum cycle. Not only that, we will also be breaking maybe the performance of the production system. If we go back to the client with the facts and what would it be impacting, mostly the client would be more accommodative or more maybe listening to us. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. Anything that we deal with the client should be backed up by proper data, and then the discussions get more easier. So thanks, Pavani, for sharing those insights. This is a very topic which is dear to you. So when sponsor says he doesn't really care more about the ceremonies and agile principles, but wants a particular delivery on a particular time, even at the cost of other in-flight work items, then how can we handle this?
Thank you, Babita. Yeah, interesting question, and a question that normally that does happen across. So so there are a couple of ways to answer this. The first thing is, right, if it is an agile methodology that they're following, and that's what the question also was leading to. There are two methods in agile, right? One is the well-known Scrum. There's also one more, which is a Kanban. So Kanban gives you the flexibility of whatever the client has been asking. Sometimes if he says, right, that I want you to bypass certain and do it, yes, Kanban is, as a process, is something that can allow you to easily prioritize the things and take things forward. So if there are some things that he wants to put on hold, you can easily put them on hold. You can pick up whatever he wants you to take it forward. So you still can use a Kanban. You can still use these various Kanban agile processes to ensure that you're successful. So in that way, you really are not bothered too much about the ceremonies. And again, Kanban doesn't have too many ceremonies. Kanban just have a daily Kanban stand-up for a few minutes, and you just pick work and you take it forward. You don't have extensive, planning meetings. You don't need to do all those. You can just have, complete Kanban, infused into the process, and that will take care of its, ask of, why ceremonies and all that. That's one way of doing it. Let's say you don't want to do a Kanban. So Kanban is the best answer any coach or anybody can give for a question that just you post, a member post. However, if you do not want to do Kanban, you want to only do still Scrum, and you still don't want to do the ceremonies, then my takeaway would be, first try to let the client and ask him what is it that is causing him heartburn. Why is it that he doesn't want this? What is it that he's really wanting? Have that discussion with them. If he thinks that these ceremonies are nothing but they're actually slowing down the work, I would strongly state then the team to really understand, are they doing the ceremonies the way they're supposed to do it? Are they just using, sometimes I say, right, agile is sometimes the most abused word in the organization, by both the management as well as the individuals. They take agile to the advantage of, whenever they see something's not going well, they say, yeah, you're doing agile, so you're not doing it well or stuff like that. So I would state, then you probably need to have a proper agile coach or a mentor who is actually able to really make them understand that these ceremonies are not becoming overheads for the, teams, but rather they're enabling the teams to move forward. So you need to, sometimes I've seen, organizations where the stand-up for 15 minutes goes for, 1.5 hours. That's not how, that becomes an overhead. A sprint review meeting, which needs to happen in 10 to 15 minutes, goes for, 2 hours. A retrospective meeting goes for, 3 to 4 hours, where each one keeps, letting out their frustrations and all that. So when these ceremonies do not become enablers for you, but they rather become discipliners for you, and they create these overheads, then not only client, anybody would be asking that question. So you need to ensure to, keep in mind that, you are doing this ceremony to enable you, to better you. So try to follow them so that you're able to really get your, proper value out of it. And let's say sometimes the ceremonies are not giving you the value, nothing stops you from scrapping away those ceremonies. At the end of the day, what are you there in the organization for? Not to follow a process, but to deliver quality, output to the customer as quickly as possible. So you need to keep that as your end goal and accordingly tweak Agile, with the help of a coach at least for the first few months. So then your Scrum Masters become themselves the coaches and they can take it forward. But you need to ensure that you follow certain ceremonies and you need to let them know that, these ceremonies are not for, just you to follow, but to actually get a value out of it. So that's very, very important. Secondly, please keep communicating to the clients regularly about what is happening. One of the beauty of Agile is to ensure that you're able to have touch base with the customers as frequently as possible so that they can understand what you're doing, so that they really understand that yes, they're able to get some value out of it. So I think if you're able to follow these two, right, to large extent, right, you'll be able to actually take care of it. But the simple answer is if you are a Kanban, if you know how to do Kanban, please follow Kanban. That will actually make the clients really understand that, none of the ceremonies are overhead. In fact, Kanban has very less ceremonies and more of, picking up work, taking it, prioritizing it, and moving it forward. That's all.
Yeah, thanks for bringing the importance of Kanban in this situation, Sairam. So now we will just take a couple of questions from the audience, from the participants, Sairam and Pavani. So maybe the first one, Sairam, I'll kind of direct this question to you. So there is a question on, in this work from home situation, how can people upgrade their skills? How they can build their skills and how, they can focus on learning while, they are working from home on their work with so many priorities going on.
Very good question, actually, very valid question at this time. One of the key things, right, is, many people can do actually because, we don't have much social life now outside.
Yeah.
It's so, I think, it's easy for us to actually spend some time on, on doing various certifications. Now, it's not important just keep doing certifications for the heck of doing it because sometimes they will not give much value to you. So what I suggest is, first have a career roadmap. Okay, what is it that you want to do? Do you want to be in the same career path that you have chosen? Then what are the certificates that are going to take you to that next level? You can always talk to your, manager or talk to your L&D person in your organization and seek inputs and then start doing those certifications. Most of them are virtual. And most of them nowadays are also created such a way that they don't take too much of your family time from you. So, some of them are on weekends, but some of them are actually doing it early in the mornings, like let's say 7 to 9 or something like that before you actually want to log in. So it gives you enough time to actually virtually undergo your training and then take the certification. So, you should be able to definitely manage doing it because you don't need to go outside. You don't need to spend time, travel, spend, your weekends, in hotels or training rooms where these things happen and then come back. So that's one thing that you can definitely think of is, you can actually enroll for programs that start early in the day or late in the evening so that you're able to still have the weekends with your family. The second thing is don't just do the certification like I mentioned earlier for just doing it. Try to first, because this is the best time for all of you also to introspect. Okay, is this the career path that I want to be in? Or is there some other career that I want to choose? If I want to choose a career which is different, what are the certifications I need to take? Come up with that list of certifications and then accordingly start, preparing yourself for those certifications and move forward. Also, because it is virtual nowadays, right, I do understand most of the certifications are coming with a lesser cost. I won't say everything is, but some of them are coming. So try to invest some portion of your, salary to that. Sorry, so that, you're able to actually take those certifications. I know this is a very hard time for many of us and we really are not able to, some of them I know are getting, full salary, some of them half salary, some of them are asked to wait for some time. So always have a negotiation with your trainer that, you can always come up with some sort of, even installments for these or, EMIs for these so that you pay something upfront and take it forward and then slowly pay monthly. You can also come up with those negotiations. But come up with those certifications that are going to make value for you, create value for you so that tomorrow if you want to apply something somewhere, you're actually in tune with whatever is the latest, whatever is it that, the industry is asking for. And the best person normally in your organization would be your L&D managers who can always equip you equip you with that sort of knowledge. And if you also can have good discussions with your direct manager, he or she also would be able to help you. Also, you have a lot of mentors and coaches, like Pavani mentioned earlier, outside there in the industry. You can always have a mentor for yourself, a coach for yourself. If you're a PMI member, PMI can help you with this sort of discussions on how you want to better your career. So you should be able to leverage all this and move forward.
Sure. So that's and I can't agree more, Sairam, and the kind of plethora of offerings, webinars that are going on in this pandemic times. We have never seen such a vast offering ever before. So I think this is the best time to invest and make the most of it. So thank you for sharing your insights there. One last question from the audience. I will kind of hand that to you, Pavani. This is on how to manage your aspirations in this time. So many people have aspirations to change jobs, move on, or even if they have an opportunity, any insights on how people can manage aspirations in this pandemic time?
Babita, I kind of missed you last sentence.
Yes.
So can you please come back on what?
So how to manage your career aspirations in this time, in the pandemic time?
Sure. Okay, got that. So initially, when this all started, there is a time where it took almost a month or so for everybody to adjust to this new normal. Aspiration is something which actually has to be very personal to a person. So figure out a way in your daily schedule. Like I would say, maybe half an hour in a day to understand what you want to do. Like what Sairam has already shared with us. What do you want to do? What is your aspiring for? But you have to dedicate a half an hour in a day for sure to make sure what you want to plan, because because that's the time also to even reading anything about anything new also would help out. So usually the managers or the great leaders have a first half an hour of their day, the moment they wake up, maybe for 10 minutes of an exercise, and then next 15 minutes, they'll get onto YouTube or anywhere, any book, they read for 15, 10, 20 minutes to anything new topic. So that's something which I would advise. And for any aspirations in terms of, like, for example, you wanted to move your entire career from one skill set to another skill set, make a plan. If you don't know how to make a plan, take a help of any of the senior and plan with the timelines, right? Even now, staying focused is very important. I understand everything is pulling you from different directions, but please make sure that as much as you can focus on what do you want to do. And when you do that timeline-based plan, make sure that you stick to it as much as possible. And for each and every timeline that you have built in, you have to look for accelerators, like in terms of who can help you in, whether it is in the current network or anywhere, even your friend who's working in a different company as well can help out. Sometimes I do print it on a printer and actually stick next to my TV to whenever I get up, I see, okay, this is where I wanted to get to. So even that helps out in sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I think it's up to us to plan it out and build it and reach the goals. So I think opportunities are out there. I think it's just about us. We need to make up our mind and get to that. So thanks, Sairam and Pavani. I think you shared really wonderful insights today. So just to wrap up, I think we spoke on the people side, empathy, data-driven discussions, and it's okay to be not okay. I think I really love that. And so handling difficult clients, how the agile ceremonies understand its value, Kanban I think then, the webinars, certifications, I think we spoke a whole lot of things where, people can draw lessons and, learn. And I think, and also, get insights from what you all have spoken and, take it back and, implement them in their own way. So I think a lot of things got spoken and a lot of learnings. So I thank you so much, Pavani and Sairam, for sharing your views, your experience. I myself got benefited with all the points that you shared. So with this, I would like to hand this back over to Monica.
Thank you so much, Babita. And I think once again, thank you so much, Pavani, Sairam. It has been a pleasure hearing you for the last few minutes, getting through all the questions. And I think our audience has also enjoyed this. A lot of practical things have been answered. So thank you so much once again. We really appreciate your time that you've spent with us today. And just on one quick note, I just wanted to ask if either of you had any further wrap-up comments to share with our audience. Sairam, do you want to go first?
Sure. Nothing much. I think I covered most of it, but stay in touch, support one another, have an open mind. I think all of us will sail through very well. Thank you.
Thank you, Sairam.
Yes, I would say stay calm, stay together stronger, and stay safe.
Thank you so much, Pavani. I'm sure that the message is going to all the members who are enthusiastically listening to you, answering all their questions. I had one quick comment for everybody in the audience. I hope you like this revamped format that we tried out today. Do let us know your feedback on the session. We will be sharing the feedback form with you separately over the email along with the self-claim steps for the PDU information. But do let us know how this revised format is working for you. Accordingly, we can see if we can have some more of such kinds of sessions. Thank you so much, everybody. And I think that's a wrap. Thank you very much. Have a great evening and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Pavani. We have a few more questions with regards to personalities. We have a question on how do we handle aggressive personalities and who force their ideas on other people? So it could be lateral, peers, or upward as well.
Sure, Babita. So it's a very good question. So let me answer from my experience. In case of an aggressive personalities, whether it's a team member or seniors or anybody where at your workplace, the first step that I would suggest is to actually have a one-on-one conversation where nobody else is there, maybe get into a conference room or any of the meetings and can ask the person what is the exact focus that person is having on this particular idea or an initiative which has been forced upon you. Try to understand the big picture of it. Is it that a person is getting that particular initiative from very higher ups with a vision and of the company being it as a very critical high priority task? That being said, any task can be handled being aggressive or not aggressive in a proper way as well. It could be also we have to check ourselves why we are feeling that person is an aggressive, whether it is really named under aggressive as well. Some people may be very hard on us in terms of timelines, in terms of getting the things done without understanding without understanding all the constraints or not. But they would just wanted to have the task done. You have to also differentiate whether that person is in general an aggressive person and just like that pressuring that task to be done as well. as well. So have that one-on-one conversation with that person, understand the big picture, why a particular task is being pushed onto us, and from there we can also provide solutions back to that person, saying that okay, this is what it is, and give that person a confidence that okay, we will finish this particular task by the decided planned scheduled time. Give the particular person a confidence on that. But if you find that the person is aggressive in any situation and getting into an anger kind of a mode, or kind of an yelling and bullying to that extent, in that case I would suggest you should take a help of HR to handle it, because some things may not be are there in your hands. So you might then HR can come in and suggest some kind of a training for that particular person. Yeah.
So those are really useful tips, Pavani. Especially, understanding whether the person is indeed aggressive at all times. I think that's the key fact that one has to look out for.
Yeah, Babita.
Yeah. On the people front, there is another question, Pavani. So as we know, we are in the current COVID times, and a lot of organizations have kind of put some kind of limits on the hikes, promotions, etc. So in this situation, how does one retain a talented employee? When we have not too much to offer to them.
Okay, so regarding talented employee, managing them and retaining them in any situation is actually critical for any manager, because those are the front-running army, I would say, who would help us in the success of the project. So it's very critical for us to actually keep them motivated in all possible ways. So what I noticed in my experience by working with many team members is, in many cases they're really not interested, while it is an important thing for a monetary benefits, but they're really not looking into a huge monetary benefits. In many cases all they wanted is a clarity in terms of whether whatever they are doing is right, whether they are on track, and whether whatever they are doing is actually helping them in growing their careers further. And many of them also are more interested in the visibility. Like for example, if any particular person has done an initiative, how far we can take that visibility as a manager is what also keeps them motivated. And rewards and recognition being always a key point in this kind of a situation where we are all virtually connected. I would suggest to have a lot of programs around recognizing the team, and also their families as well, which will make them feel that we really care. So that's something I would suggest. Second thing is on the career plan itself, right? So uh, we have to at least give a picture to our team at least 3 years from now. Any company, any project will usually have a 3-year roadmap. We have to do a similar planning for the careers of the talented people as well, or any team member actually who is reporting to you, right? It's good idea to have it. The more clarity we give to the team member, and the more visibility we give to the person, they tend to stay back, and they tend to build more passion around it. So that's what I could experience from my experience in the past.
Sure. Thanks for sharing those inputs, Pavani. Continuing our thread on the people aspects of things in this COVID times, there is another question as to how do we make sure we do not tend to micromanage people. Any thoughts on that, Pavani?
Yeah, sure. Definitely, we in this current situations, we keep wondering what's happening, whether the projects are in in pipeline, because previously we all used to sit in the same place and we can see across, and we were in scrum teams, and each scrum team was so tightly coupled. There are a lot of aids also, like there are a lot of storyboards there where we can go and stick a post-its, and when I just walk from there, I could see the progress of the project just from a distance as well. I can know the number of defects that have been fixed and all that stuff, right? So it's obvious that a manager would feel that to know the status more often, but actually I would suggest not to during this time. Focus more on the deliverables. See if the deliverable has been delivered on the time that we have committed to. Like I said in my first question we had during the session, where we have a daily stand-up, that's where I think you can just cross-check quickly on how we are doing in terms of whether that particular dates are done or not. Secondly, now everything is in Jira boards as well. Even the status is in terms, even previously was also there, but there was more visual aids around for us to quickly look at it. But make sure now have these dashboards on your screen popping up all the time to take a help of a system rather than micromanaging the team and asking where the status is. Yes, if it is really delaying, yes, you have to step in and take the control and understand why a task is delayed. But if it is going on a smooth way, there is no need for us to do a micromanagement. And also, first and foremost, we should be also be concerned on how the associate is feeling in this time, right? They could be overwhelmed, they could be needing some help and all. That will come first and foremost, and then second is your projects, right? So even from that perspective, hold back in doing any micromanagement during this time is what I can suggest, Babita.
Sure. I think moving towards digital tools from more visual aids, I think it has definitely helped in these times. I think these are really useful, Pavani. Now shifting our focus slightly towards the projects. So Sairam, here's a question on how do we handle projects with tight timelines and limited resources, especially in these current situation. How can we achieve the same goals which was always there. Tight timelines have always been there, but I think it makes it a little more extra challenging the current situation. So some of our viewers, members want to know how do we handle these situations.
Sure. Thank you, Babita. So yeah, how do we handle projects, right? So the first thing we need to keep in mind is that, we are into something called new normal. So there is a word called new before normal. So we can't expect everything to be how it was, a few months back. Probably it will return to that in the next few months, and that's what we all are hoping for. But we do have this transition phase where in these months, right, it is going to be something called new normal. And we all need to understand that in new normal, there is always this, change that everybody has to adapt to. And when you're going to adapt to a particular change, right, it doesn't happen in a day. And when you are going to adapt to any change, right, you do understand that, the curve is going to be a little slow. You're going to, first learn, then you're going to slowly adapt it, then you're going to start making it your discipline, and then you start getting used to it. So you have to understand that, it is going to take some time for all this to happen. So there is no harm in always trying to reach out to your customers and stakeholders and tell them that, if you don't want to use the word called, a particular, scenario, like you don't want to use it as a COVID, you don't want to use a particular word, you can always tell that this is a new normal that we all are working on. So give us some time to get, that into the complete normalcy stage. So a couple of things you can do here is, first thing is you need to start letting the stakeholders know that, this is what you can do and this much is what you can do because of these, things. Always data is very, very important. Instead of just generically telling them, you can always plot very clearly that earlier we had 15 resources working on a X project, which were completed by, X date. But today, because we're not going to have those 15 resources, it's only going to be 10. With 10, you need to you do your math and try to understand by what time you'll be able to deliver and how much you'll be able to deliver. See, you can always only do one thing. You can either cut down the scope and deliver on time, or you can increase the scope and increase the time also.
You can't always, you cannot do vice versa, nor can you do any shortcuts. So I think we need to be very open, very transparent with the stakeholders and customers, understand what can be, ticked off in the prioritization list, so that you're able to prioritize only those things that you want to have first, get the customers want, and then you can start working on those good to have things and all that. So I think we need to be this transparent with the stakeholders and customers and talk to them about this new normal thing and how we can and how we need to live with it till that becomes the normal for all of us.
Yeah, Sairam, I totally agree. We should have that transparency and also back it up with as much data as possible, so it becomes easy for everybody to understand the situation. So thanks for sharing that. Continuing on the project side, we have a question wherein there is someone who is responsible for a PMO in their new company, and their management wants to move to agile project delivery. But I think due to the due to people working from different locations, they don't get to meet everyone personally. So how can we work on, and so to put it, to cut the long story short, it means how do we, manage agile projects in this, in working remotely.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting question, Babita. So, like I mentioned in a couple of my earlier questions, right, on Agile, one of the key things for Agile, there are a lot of myths, that people carry about Agile. They think if you're not co-located, we cannot do well. If you do not see face to face, we cannot do well. I do understand, the philosophy of why these statements are made, but what we need to understand is it's not about just sitting together or meeting each other regularly or seeing face to face, in a room. All these things can be done virtually also. What is more important is all of you should start, being agile rather than doing agile. So when we say being agile, right, you need to have that agility mindset, to change fast, to be able to adapt to whatever changes the new normal is bringing to your professional life. Try to understand that you're not going to be having the luxury you had earlier in the office. So how is it that you can actually change yourself to adapt by getting yourself acclimatized with the tools, with the various other technology service providers that you have, so that you're able to actually still be in touch with all your stakeholders, with your customers, with your teams. Ensure that all the 4 ceremonies of Agile, right, are still can be done even if they're virtual. Stand-ups, reviews, retrospectives, and planning. So one thing is definitely, because we're not in office or we're not meeting each other, it doesn't mean that we cannot do Agile. Yes, that's said and done. One of the philosophy of Agile is that if you are actually sitting in a room, you can just tap the other person's shoulder and you can get your answers and all that. So there is going to be little bit of lean wastage because of this. I fully understand that, and not just me, any Agile person will tell you that because of this new virtual tools, and because of we not actually being able to touch base with each other regularly on a day-to-day basis in office and talk. Yes, and there'll be some little bit of effort that needs from each one of us to be little more communicative, like over communication, be more responsive in our mails, in our phone calls, or in our Teams chats and all that. I do understand that, and sometimes because of this there is going to be a little bit of lean wastage. We should live with that little bit of lean wastage, but still I think Agile can be done, because the purpose of Agile is to ensure that we are going to work fast, get fast feedback, do incremental deliverables, talk to each other regularly, and move things forward. And all these things can be done even if they're virtual. So I think the person can easily set up the PMO, and if they want to do Agile projects, they can still keep doing the Agile projects. All that they need to keep in mind is, yes, there could be a slight percentage of lean wastage, which actually Agile wants actually lean wastage to be 0%. But that with this new normalcy, we might have a slight increase in that percent, but that also will die down as we all start, working together more, in the next few months in Agile.
Yeah, that is so true, Sairam. Even if the resources were working cross-location or across the globe, we would still have to go for the virtual kind of scenarios. So, having been in the COVID, I think it's no different from what it would have been in the real life scenario if the teams were not co-located. So thanks for sharing the concept of lean wastage. I think it's very useful, and I'm sure our members will benefit with this insight that you shared. Continuing on the people side again, so there's a question where somebody newly joined a company during the pandemic and is yet to visit the office and meet the people in person. So the question is, how do we handle this situation effectively?
Okay. So that it's very simple, and most of us can relate to this because many of us must have moved across organizations even in this pandemic situation, because organizations are still recruiting the right talent that they want, and they're not really worried if there is a situation outside that's stopping them from it. So this is a good question again. So what I would suggest is there's always something called before joining the organization, as soon as you join the organization. So, before you join the organization, right, so let's say you already got your offer, you have accepted, and there are a few days for you to join the organization. Don't just, be silent in these days. If you are able to understand who your recruiting manager is, start building a good professional relationship with that recruiting manager. There's no harm in, you just, having a call with him once in a week or once in 2 weeks, just, sharing everything other than work, because at that time you really don't want to talk about work, but generally what your, what are the things you like to do in life, what is it that your aspirations are, both professional, personal, and if you're able to catch up for a cup of coffee or tea, even in this situation, you can do that, or you can just have once a week or once in 2 weeks a call, so that you are able to have the touch base with that person you're going to work with, and both of you know each other very, at least to some extent, so that you're going to have a smooth onboarding. This will be very important and very useful, because it already starts off starts off a professional bond that you can build with that person. Many organizations today are actually wanting this to happen, especially with this situation, right? Even they need you as much as you need them, so they really also want to ensure that the person that they've actually chosen to join their organization is also happy, and he's feeling comfortable enough before even he sets foot on the first day into the organization. I mean, either virtually or physically. So that's very important to do. The second thing is, as soon as the person joins the organization, it's very important that he starts understanding who his, of course, he knows by now who his manager is, who the admin, who is going to be the admin for his group, who is going to be the HR person for his group, who is going to be the IT person for his group. These are the three, other people he needs to definitely be in touch along with his manager. So he needs to, the moment he enters into the organization virtually, if he already gets a mail from the organization with these people's names and contacts, then nothing like that. Otherwise, nothing stops him or her to just reach out to his manager and tell them to please give the admins, the HRs, and the IT person's names and contacts. The reason being, the IT person is the person who is going to work with him for the first few weeks or days to ensure that he's having everything in place, so that virtually he still feels that he's within the organization, like his laptop, his other accessories, his mailbox configuration, so many other things are taken care. The HR person, because he or she is the person who actually is sort of a thread in the organization. So you want to know so many things about the organization, right? So could be from as simple as your leave summaries, to your list of holidays, to who are the people you need to be in regular touch with, your other things related to your PFs and so many other things that you're so you need to have your HR person's contact person, and also you also always need to have one person other than your manager who you always have to rely on or for anything. So that should be a HR person. The admin person is basically, if you want to get some calls scheduled, or, if you want to sometimes reach your manager, and if your manager is in a very, high position in the organization, and you don't want to directly always reach him, though you know that, you're new and he will have time for you, but still you may not want to always barge on to him. You want to have ask some simple other questions related to, you want to get some stationery or some procurement and things like that. Then the admin, of that particular group, will be the person who should be able to help you. So you should ensure that you're in touch with these three people, and you need to over communicate definitely in the first few days to them. You should start, telling them that you're new to the organization, you have joined, and you want to have a quick call with them for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So with all your peers, and if you have people who are going to report into you, then with those people and the people that you're reporting into, you need to ensure that you take the first step to, trying to get yourself introduced to them in a call or a mail and build that bond. And then once, I'm sure all the situation will stop off, I think in the next 5 to 6 months, and we're all hoping for that. Mid-summer next year, I'm sure all will be getting into our offices. By then, I think you would have already made a smooth transition, that everybody just welcomes you with like, oh, it looks like I know you for ages, instead of telling you that they just know you for last 6 months. So that's how you need to build your relationship once you try to get into an organization.
Yeah, I totally agree there, Sriram. Yeah, although it's not a very ideal situation that one would want to be in, but definitely not impossible. So if the associate makes efforts to connect with people, I think I'm sure that they will get into the company very easily.
Thank you, Babita.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sairam and Pavani, for taking out the extra time to cover additional questions for the audience. And thank you, Babita, for stepping up to facilitate that. I'm sure the audience will certainly be excited to hear these additional questions being answered when they check out the recording. And at PMIPCC Hyderabad chapter, I think from everybody here, thank you very much. We will be uploading this session on the YouTube soon, so people can start accessing it and getting insights from you. Thank you again so much.
Thank you,
Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Babita. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Pavani.
Thank you, Sai.
Thank you.